guys, welcome back to Ponderings from Palm Coast. I'm Mark Webb, and as I have said many times, this is an election cycle, an election year. We've got some exciting positions available between our city council, county commissioner, and even 6th district. So I am going to try to bring candidates like Tony Amaral to sit with me and try to discuss and put opportunities for information, and you guys can pose questions and reach out, because what do I say every time? You have to participate. You have to vote. The ballot we're going to be looking at, we've got tomorrow with the charter review. They're talking 30 questions. None of those are going to show up. But the point is, your chance to sit down with a ballot and take a look at the names and issues and things that are happening is your right. It is what the Founding Fathers, the Constitution, all of that expected we would all participate. So with that, I'd like to welcome Tony back to the table.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
for coming.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. It's been a few months.
It has.
I'm hoping you're a little more polished and a little more wiser about what's going on. I know that you're very involved at the city council meetings, and I would love to dive in to those kind of things happening within the city. But what's been going on with you?
It's been good. Just this Friday, we just had our first really campaign event, if you will. It was a dinner. Final numbers are coming in about 250 people.
Wow.
Showed up. And it was a wonderful evening. It was I tell you, it was emotional just to see that much support. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It's fabulous. It was really nice to have that and just have that sense of, we believe you and we've got it, we're behind you. And it is humbling.
So did you walk away from that feeling like you made the right decision?
I did. I mean, I was confident already to begin with, but that was just, you're always going to question. I mean, I'm going to be questioning all the way up until August 18th, or maybe even the 19th, hopefully not too early in the morning. But that was definitely wow. Like, these people had made the decision to support and show up, and to have 250 of them, I think, is a big statement, especially for our community.
Absolutely. And as I've mentioned to others, and the mayor asked me, running for office is a huge step and a big commitment, and it's going to put pressure on family and other elements, as we've been seeing that. Yeah. And so I've talked to a lot of people that would love to get involved, but they're not prepared for the part-time job, which is really a full-time job, if you're serious about it. So that's great. And I want to go on record and make this very clear. City council positions are non-partisan. It's not a Republican. It's not a Democrat. You guys know I lean left, but I also want this city to function. I want my tax dollars, just like my next door neighbor who's not leaning left. We have the same concerns, the same issues. And I attended the meeting with all of the Republican, and I'm not labeling you a Republican, it's nonpartisan. And the comments I heard from the group were nonpartisan concerns about your water and the price of your home and sewer. Yes. So keep that in mind. Keep your mind open as you listen to these candidates that I bring in, including Tony.
They're Palm Coast issues.
Exactly.
Don't matter where you stand, and At the end of the day, we're all living here. We're all going to have the same questions that we're looking to get answers for. And so I just hope people take the time to listen and hear for themselves. Let's not rely so much on a post one way or the other, and just confirm and listen. And it doesn't sound right, or I heard one thing on this side and one thing on that side. Take the time and actually go hear for yourself and make a decision based on that.
Yes, absolutely. Social media is someone's opinion of an issue. As I brought up in the last city council meeting, early on, some of our council members had made an incorrect comment about they really felt that they were going to be successful in getting the Matanzas lights put in, which we all need. And we know that. And if you live up by here, it's really dangerous. And so I had been approached by many people who were saying, City Council said that was going to happen this year. And I brought it to their attention, as you should. If you hear or want to know what's going on, they're available. You can email them, you can call them. The transparency of the individual sitting on that council, I have found to be very helpful. You may not like what they tell you. You know, if you think that Palm Coast has the money or energy or the ability to fix State Road 100, you need to understand it's a state road, not a Palm Coast road. They're aware of it. They're working on it. They're doing what they can.
They're fighting a TPO. I mean, it's not even a county road, so you know.
Right.
It's all determined by the state and us waiting in line, just like always. Just like the interchange at Matanzas. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's now 27, she was 16, had her first accident on that overpass.
Yeah. No, I mean.
So I always said it wanted lights and should have lights.
So I asked the city council to please clarify what they thought. And they came back and said they're doing everything they can to get the state to understand we have a need. The state has it on a punch list, but there's no confirmation. There's no hard time frame. There's no clear expectation of when the state is going to come in and fix those intersections.
Yes.
And, you know, that's important of a takeaway to realize there's an abundance of limitations as to what our city council can do. And I listen to people stand in front of the dais all the time complaining. The airport in Flagler County.
Yep.
Well, the airport has nothing to do with city council. Has nothing to do, basically, even with Flagler County.
No,
It's run by the FAA. And so there's a big difference between struggling with something and wanting to get it fixed and knowing the limitations of the people you're talking to. And I'm sure you're hearing that as a candidate.
I am, and I hear it. And just got to remind people, I mean, so you always hear big government. And it is. I mean, the airport, for instance, completely surrounded by the city of Palm Coast. Enterprise fund, belongs to the county, funds itself, runs itself, dictated by federal DOT and the FAA on what they can and can't do, on where they can and can't go. The county has very little say, and the Palm Coast has essentially zero say. We just kind of have to follow rules that are put in place by those other agencies. We can't put a 10-story high-rise right in line with the flight. That's a rule we have to follow, whether we want it or not. We can't do it because it's not dictated by us one way or another.
Right. The expectation of an elected official, city council, to what they can and can't do is a challenging aspect. And before we get too far down the road in this conversation, It's important to clarify your background,
Yes.
and you've been hands down the longest resident I've ever met in Palm Coast. This is where you grew up, and this is where you lived, and this is where you raised your family. And yes, your expertise is in building
Yes, it is.
residential homes, and you've been very successful at it.
I like to think so, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the rumors are true. I am a builder.
Right. But you are not a
I am not a
developer.
developer, no. And there is a distinction. Builders have been, predominantly all of what I've built has been on the original plotted lots in ITT. I didn't go out, grab 100 acres, put roads, sewers, and made plot. I didn't do that. I never did it. I never really wanted to or do want to. But I have put people in homes on land that they bought, that ITT sold them or have sold multiple times to end up as a buildable lot in Palm Coast. And I'm proud of the fact I put families in homes. My houses have made stories for their families. They've had tragedies. They've had great news. They've had all kinds of things. And the fact that they did it in a home that I built, I will always take pride in that.
It isn't, unfortunately, with the attitudes within the city over the past few years, that the frustration of these large developments, and I think some of it is justified. Back in the day, the city council rezoned a lot of areas from light and industry into residential for the purpose of bringing more residents here. That's the growth and the understanding of the city, but that's not you.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, I remember when they finally had to stop on Hardgrove. It's our industrial area off of US 1. For a while, they were letting churches buy those lands and convert them so they can put a church there. Someone at some point said, wait, that's all industrial. We have to stop doing that. We're small. There's plenty of land now, but the future is going to say we're going to need that land. So I remember that. I don't remember what year it was, but when they finally said, do not buy on Hardgrove to put a church up. And because they recognized, okay, we are getting finite space of where we can do this, so let's not start changing it. And vice versa, we have grabbed some lands also and converted to, they were like light commercial, and converted it to a higher density residential area because it was like, well, there's just so much land. It's time where we just have to stick with the plan. We have a master plan. We have our future land use maps. We look at them, we adjust them. We just have to start following it. Can we make exceptions sometimes? Maybe. I'll say that. I'm never going to say 100% yes or 100% no. It depends on the situation and the project where we can look at it.
Palm Coast, in my mind, through ITT and the history, if you take the city academy, you will learn phenomenal things about the history and the growth. The founders, the original developers saw this as a bedroom residential community, a retirement place. It was advertised that way. Now, the history went back and forth on they tried it and it failed and they tried it again. There was a lot of drama to that. But it was always designed to be a residential bedroom community where retirees could come and live and enjoy the Florida dream closest to the beach and whatever. And so the amount of light or heavy industry and that zoning, can you clarify a little bit? It's kind of muddy because they've rezoned it back and forth a few times. But So my understanding, light industry is where you get the strip mall.
Well, so we have commercial, and then you have like a heavier commercial. That's going to be your strip malls, that type of stuff. Light industrial can accommodate kind of like almost, let's just call it warehousing with an office space also. If you need to store tile, you're a tile supplier. So that industrial area is more for that, where they expected the heavy trucks to come in, unload quantities, leave. Maybe not necessarily have a showroom there, but it was basically going to be your stock room, if you would. And essentially most of it was US 1 and west of US 1, just along, and you see them now off of Hardgrove Grade. You see it down where Stone Plus is, and those pieces were kind of always set aside as more than just a commercial center. We have American Radionics, was a long-time company. They just made different parts for radios, transistors, stuff like that. They actually spun wire. I had a couple of friends when in high school that got jobs there, and they would just literally strip down large wire to thin that would fit in transistors. We have Sunbelt Chemical. They do a lot of, I believe, pool chemicals and other chemicals off of Hardgrove. And then we have our mom and pops who needed the extra space. They need the storage. Air conditioning companies where they have to store large quantities of AC units. They're not small. You can't just stick them in an office somewhere. So that's more the industrial side of it and light industrial. When you start going heavy industrial, it's when you're starting to do more of the manufacturing. The cement batching plants fall in that also.
Well,
again, it's coming up, I am shocked to see it is coming up again.
And the same attorney
Yes.
that was representing ICI
Yes.
is representing Rockstar,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes.
So the question is, if you have an area, acreage, and it's zoned like commercial for those kind of businesses, if you will, and it's successful, and there's 20, 30, 50 businesses that come into this area, is it appropriate to then all of a sudden grab a section of it and turn it into heavy to meet the needs of a request by an industry because we're so short on heavy?
Well, yeah, heavy is, I gotta tell you, I don't know if we have any heavy industrial anymore, like available still. If we do, it might be one or two parcels and they might not be very large. Hardgrove was always that kind of light industrials. They kind of kept it because they didn't want, everyone said industrial, everybody automatically saw, smokestacks and pollution and just chaos. It's not, you gotta remember, medical devices is industrial when they make them. Hospital beds is considered an industry. It's an industrial pacemakers. All that stuff is industrial. It's clean industrial compared to, I guess,
the fuel transfer depot.
A steel smelting station. So
Yeah.
there is differences when it comes to an industry, and it's heavy industry just by, I guess, more along the lines of weight volume type, like I said, large trucks coming in and out on the regular. We still need some of that. If we want to bring back good paying jobs, if we want to start attracting, the DC blocks is going to start attracting other companies here. Google
Now the
is coming.
DC blocks, that's the data.
That is the data center, yes.
That's going to go in over by
Town center.
Town
It's
center.
in town center. But you're going to see, because you got to remember, years ago, we have a fiber optic ring around Palm Coast already in place. It was an initiative that was brought up maybe 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little bit more. I know Councilman Nick Klufis was a big proponent of it, and talking to him, he's like, if we can get that ring set up already, we're way ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're tying in, and you'll see it get tied in, but that'll allow these manufacturing to be able to kind of sprout up because the infrastructure that they need, high capacity data transfers, all that stuff, will be the basis, and that's just the first step. So where along that ring do we put it? Some of it's running through housing, some of it's running through the west side. The west side expansion to me is a mystery still, because I haven't seen the plan. It could be so many
Well,
things.
they're funding to build the road.
Well, that was a grant from the state, yes. Which,
Well, there's
good, bad, indifferent, at the end of the day, something's going to happen there. I would like to see some more transparency on who now owns the road, how much of that land around it will be given, set aside, and then what's the plan for it? Is it going to be, hey, north end, south end, industrial, light commercial, or just all residential? There is talk, and you've heard the talk. There's been sports complexes talked about. There's been, you name it, apartments, commercial. I need to see it on paper before I can say I'm for or against, and that's where we got to start. But that infrastructure is in place to allow the things. Power, water are also big drivers of where these industries are going to go. Track 17, my favorite, has enough power because FPL has basically like a little substation there. So any type of industry that needs a lot of power will be able to get there, and it'll be a minimal cost for them to finish transferring that power to their location. If they had to buy, new transfer lines, the cost gets bigger. So we do have to kind of worry about that also.
So to clarify, track 17 is acreage that's on the north end of US 1.
Near Matanzas Woods Parkway.
That's right. So near the circle where Matanzas, and it's actually next to where the new utility facility, and up in that corner where they're building.
It is further north of it, but yes, it's
right. And so it's up in that area. And to most people, understanding and talking about the what ifs or woulda, coulda, shoulda 5 years from now is outside of most people's view or understanding when this gets talked about, because we're seeing at Tallahassee, at the state level, ongoing purposeful control of these decisions. SB 180, nobody knew anything about it until all of a sudden Bunnell actually was the first. The lawyer in Bunnell was the one that told the city, you don't have the authority any longer to control or approve or specify building efforts. And then it blew up and everybody got on board with it. But
Bunnell's been aggressive. Again, you have to remember, Bunnell was 5 square miles. For as long as I was here, it was the county seat, but it was the smallest location. Might have even been slightly smaller than Flagler Beach, if I'm not mistaken. It is now the second largest city in Florida in terms of land mass.
Because what they do, just annex all that from the county?
They basically annexed some kind of agreement was met between the county and Bunnell to go from unincorporated Flagler County to Bunnell. And it's because of their tax base, just like Flagler Beach is having a problem with. They're quote unquote building out. There's no new tax revenues coming in. They're capping out, but they're starting to see, oh wait, our infrastructure is having bigger faults than we anticipated. Our roads are deteriorating. How do we transfer those situations and costs and divide it, instead of having it on between, let's just say, 200 homes to now 400 homes or 600 homes? It lowers the tax base because everyone pays a little bit less, but there is growth. You have to adjust for it. I don't see Flagler Beach, for instance, adding much more capacity as roads. Bunnell, they have space. They can do different things. Again, it depends on how they plan it, because they are now the second largest city. So now it's up to them to start seeing that vision of how can we have that smart growth. And at the end of the day, we have to remember, Palm Coast, the concept of Palm Coast is Yeah, 60 plus years old. The concept's probably even older, but the actual starting to lay it out, we're 60 years old. Palm Coast is 25. What was normal, if you were, or industry standard then has changed. So we have to change. And it's going to change again 25, 50 years from now. We're always going to be able to look back. Hindsight, is always 2020, as they say. So knowing the history, knowing where we got, how we got to where we are today, I do think helps make good decisions or better decisions about what we can do to prevent some of the downfalls that we've seen in that period for tomorrow.
And it's interesting, and you brought this up, and they were actually, John and Brian and the guys on Free for All Fridays were talking about the potential change of direction within Palm Coast if any changes to the property tax scenario occur. And I say that in a broad way because nobody knows. Nobody has any idea other than the concept is we would love to reduce the property taxes that each of us pay to give you more money to spend in your local economy, wherever that goes. And there was this conversation of our long-term plan and our need for growth of residents to generate a tax base, to provide more funding, to build and improve the infrastructure, which may or may not be available if the property tax is revised in some way. Would that cause the push to build more slow down?
I think market's always going to drive our growth. COVID came. I no longer have to commute to my city job to sit in a city office that holds 400 or 500 people, 600 people. I'm working from home remotely. Why don't I just do it from a better place, a more comfortable place? Why not come to Palm Coast? You saw the boom. You saw the crazy marketing. Houses were selling for above asking price in 3 days or less. But that was market driven. We're playing catch up. Obviously, that was all resale, I should say, because I can't build a house in 3 days. I can't build a house in a month. I mean, it takes a long time, and especially once COVID hit, there was those shortages of a little bit of everything at different times. So your project might get held up in the beginning because you were short on rebar, in the middle because you were short on wood, at the end because you were short on, let's just say, electrical fixtures, garage doors. So we caught up. That's where you saw all the planning. That's where you saw all of the, what everybody's calling now the big boom. We just passed 2,000 permits. And then I think we just peaked over it, and then I think we're already under the 2,000 permits. Compare that to the early 2000s. It was 3,000 to 3,500 permits a year being pulled for probably like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and that's for new home builds.
Just new home builds.
But at the same time, we have a pretty extensive list of homes for sale right now.
We do.
In the 2000s.
Yep.
With an expected sell of a little over 90 days, depending on your home.
Yep.
And we have a very broad choice of homes to buy here in Palm Coast. You can be on the canal with a pool and spend $600,000-$700,000, or there's homes available in the $250,000 to $280,000 range.
Small lots.
Well, not even with small lots. It's just older, smaller homes. So while we're on that, and please make sure that you touch on those things you're hearing about. It's incredibly important that you clarify today, and as you're doing
Yes.
more and more, my issues are, my belief is vote for me because I'm hoping to build a more sane baseline understanding within the city. But we've had a lot of talk recently, and I know that your wife and others are involved in this low income, affordability. The
Yep.
word is very translucent as far as what that really means. What does that mean to you? What do you see?
So my wife was appointed to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. It's a program in the county. It has representatives from the county that were picked by the county, and it has representatives from the city of Palm Coast because we are the largest population. Affordable housing, I think people automatically, and I heard it the other day, oh, it's Section 8. Oh, it's low income. Affordable housing is just where we finally have realized if you're spending more than 30% of your income just to have a place to live, a roof over your head, that causes excessive strains on everything else you have. Because 30% doesn't sound like a lot, but you're looking at a third of your living is just to have a roof over your head. Then there's your food, your car. Let's face it, we have more expenses now than we did when I was younger. It's almost a necessity to have a cell phone, vehicles, insurance. So all those factors go in, especially for the homes. So the taxes, the homeowner's insurance, the utilities, all of them go into that 30% calculation. In a perfect world, everyone would make that quote unquote living wage so that they would have enough where they were going to spend less than 30%. So then they have the average median income. An affordable housing committee shoots to get people from 80% of that, and I think we're at $92,000 for a household. It's kind of it's statistics. It's one adult versus two adults. It's one adult with two kids or two adults with one kid. The numbers do shift, and that's how you qualify. And it's just to kind of help out people get into homes. The average age of first-time homeowners is close to 40 years old now. It's gone up since from like the mid 20s, I think 20 years ago. I'm actually just got a book on it. I'm going to start reading on it. The New Deal, middle class. I forget who wrote it, but I just got it. But that is something that we're seeing. You know, we've talked about it's issues that are going to be everywhere. Well, it's not everywhere because people are living somewhere. So what are they doing that we're not? And you might say, well, if you can't afford to live here, then you can't afford to live here. Well, then keep that in mind when you start complaining about you can't afford to live here. Would you like someone to tell you, well, then you can't live here? So you do have the program, and so that committee and what we're doing as a city and as a county, it administers our SHIP with a P program, which also then does our community block grant districting, CDGB. They help with people who have fixed incomes. They qualify. You need a new roof. You need new air conditioning. They will come out, do an assessment. They will give you this grant. You keep the house for the first 5 years. If you sell it at home, after you sell it, you have to pay 100% back. The next 5 years, you get a 20% reduction on how much you have to get back. So if you have this issue, people on fixed incomes, let's just say widows who have been here for 25, 30 years, they need a new roof. Their house is falling in disrepair. This does qualify them. You stay in the house for 10 years, you owe nothing back. So that is part of the affordable or attainable housing. It's not all about new construction, but it's actually also about keeping people in their house that may not be able to afford it.
Absolutely. And being a home owner and having the maintenance of it is a real thing. But I want to touch on the new homes because in our last city council meeting, the vice mayor changed her vote. Not that it would have mattered. So it's important for us to understand they already had enough votes to approve the additional 13 homes or whatever it
Well,
was.
she actually,
No, she changed from no to
no,
yes.
she was a yes to begin with to get to second reading.
To get to the second,
Second reading, yes.
because she had applied
Yes, she said,
other things.
but I want to see these changes.
Right.
Yes.
And the thing that I want to ask you, because I know besides a builder, you're a licensed realtor.
I am a real
And
estate
you've been
broker.
involved in the housing market in many different ways for a long time. And the simple question is, if I'm a Palm Coast employee, I'm an essential worker, let's say I'm a fireman, and I'm making entry level at the beginning of between $50,000-$60,000, which is scale for most all the counties around us, in which she made this comment. We can pay you them more, or we can find a way to help them move into and have the available to purchase a home. And my question to you, the average medium cost of a Palm Coast home is somewhere in the mid 300s. So let's just pick a number, $300,000 for a new home. Can someone making $50,000 a year in any way, shape, or form afford a $300,000 home?
No. That's
Okay.
the plain simple. That's
So let's start
the hard
with,
numbers.
Right.
Again, the average median income needs to be 90, and that's based on their numbers. 80% of that, it goes into you will be spending more than 30% of your income just to have that home,
And
and then some. Just especially at 50,000.
I don't know, Tony. In my 60 years of owning homes and working, I always was paying more for a roof
Yes.
than the 30% of my income. And thank God my wife
Yes.
worked, and it's tough.
It is tough.
So when a person's sitting, watching a YouTube, hearing this and knowing that we can't afford to pay them more, we have to pay scale, that's real. We can't afford, as you point out, we can't control, market controls the price of the homes. What is the intent or the value of working to find ways for someone making that amount of money to buy a home in Palm Coast?
I'll even just go for in Florida. Anywhere.
Well, no, because, like you said, 40, but if you look at a 2-bed, 2-bath rental apartments in Palm Coast, they're darn close to what a mortgage would be for that home, minus putting all the money down.
So the rentals have actually come down, price-wise, they've come down. But at the end of the day, what has been a generational growth builder is ownership, not rental. Part of the problem, I was in Tallahassee, part of the thing I was talking about was to fully fund the Sadowski Fund. And that was set up to help have these grants, like the SHIP program, like any version there that falls underneath it also, except for there was a way that their system was worked to do apartments, to do rentals. If I rent out 15 units out of 100, I now qualify to get some of that SHIP money transferred to me, which will lower my initial costs. I'll make those attainable, affordable, based on market price. Again, based on market price, but they're getting full benefits of it. That program was originally set up for home ownership. I'm a big proponent of home ownership. My in-laws have bought and sold houses through that. My parents have bought and sold houses. It's their stock market, if you will. The fact that you rent somewhere, you raise your family renting somewhere, when it's your turn to leave, you left with nothing. And so I think that's where we kind of have to start shifting. It's that missing middle that that's the kind of like the catchphrase now. You're making too much to qualify for help, but you're making too little to almost get by. And so that's where this attainable housing, and I'm not saying it has to be a government program. I'm not saying the city needs to put money into it, but we do have ways that we can look at it. We do have ways that we can ask and tell, hey, let's fully fund this Adamski Act and just get that working again to start this again. The market's still going to drive, but there can be certain things you can do as a municipality by offering and saying, okay, we can help you with upfront costs like taxes, and set up something where it's like the CDBG, where it's if you own the house for 10 years, you're good. If you sell it anytime before that, you pay back in. It just helps refurbish the funding in the account. We have to do it because at some point we're going to lose. So I had the privilege of talking to some of the firefighters from their union. A third of the firefighters can't afford to live here. They had high turnaround. Like had people that would come in, they would commute for the year or two and then say, thank you, I've got my experience, I'm going to go work somewhere else. That costs the city and the county money to train them up front and then do it. We have teachers. We will become a desert of lack of services. Our nurses, our highest demand is hospitals, nurses, and then public safety. Those are the areas where is the most affected, especially the people who are just getting into that area. Your first year policemen, your first year firemen, your first couple years teachers. We will just lose them. And if we can't keep them here, again, it's a long-term picture. Oh, we'll just pay them more. Okay, well, your short term is when the taxes are raised to cover that, now what? Because we're not going to have less firemen. Long term, we can get into home ownership. Home ownership builds equity. It builds a sense of community. I'm less likely just to get up and say, see ya, and leave to go down 30 miles down the road and do something there. It helps keep local dollars in place. I know it's pie in the sky. It sounds like this big fantasy, but they have the paperwork, they have the statistics that show ownership shows more community interest, which just helps the community overall improve.
Oh, hands down, the American dream of owning a home. Retired military, I used the GI Bill to buy my first home, zero money down. The 30% rule wasn't even a thing. And also the proximity of where I worked wasn't a thing. And so I struggle with finding the best job you can and then finding the location to live are two different things.
And that's why we're unique,
I myself, but I myself have never lived in the local environment of where I worked. And I couldn't afford it then, and I had to commute. And the older retirees who I talk to are struggling to understand the connection, which is what you're pointing to, of we have fire, we have sheriff, we have teachers and nurses, service people that provide us services that make money but can't afford to live in Palm Coast Prime because of the cost of the homes, they all say to me, yeah, I experienced that too. And I had to commute. If you think about a lot of these people lived up in the Northeast and lived on a train every day. I talked to a gentleman who worked in the city, New York, and took a hour and 10-minute train ride each way to live up in Connecticut or up on that. And to them, they're going, I don't see the problem. How do we get those citizens to realize we either lower or make available lower cost homes to attract and keep employees, or pay them more to move into the area? And it comes down to that simple question.
Well, think of this. Not only, so you're saying option A or option B. I'm going to give you option C also.
Absolutely.
If we can have this base, if we can bring in the younger, educated people to come back here with new jobs, new industries, new stuff like that, that's going to help us attract new industries, new tech. And you gotta remember, so when we say industry, let's not just remember it's not just a job. Okay, sorry, you had to commute for your job. You also had a train system. You also had a bus system. You also had various ways around it. Florida,
Oh, you mean a design for a city that has support mechanisms for the citizens?
Exactly.
And we have none of that.
No, and we don't have any, even less, let alone locally, we don't have anything to get you to Jacksonville or to Daytona or even St. Augustine. We don't have that. So these people who have to make a living have extra costs because they have to have their car now. They're paying for the maintenance on it. They're paying for the oil changes. They're paying for the car. They're paying for the insurance. I know people who live in New York City that don't have a vehicle.
Absolutely.
Because they have no need for one. They're paying super high to live there, though. So there are these trade-offs. But at the end of the day, we need to bring in these new businesses, not the mom and pops. Right now, our rooftops, our homes are paying 92% of our budget when it comes to general fund and everything else. Taxes.
Property taxes fund
Yes.
92% of the economic engine, which is
The
Palm
fire,
Coast.
the sheriff, the roads is being funded by
Right.
our ad valorem property taxes. If you are a small business owner who live in Palm Coast and you own a business in Palm Coast, you are now supporting about 98%, maybe 99%, because we don't have very large corporate, Walmart, obviously, stuff like that will pay. So if we can spread that out, bring in that large area industry, set aside the area for industry, but we have to be able to have the right people to go in there. No one's going to come here and say, oh, we need, 100 people that can have education at this level, some technical stuff, and you guys don't have it because you're just minimizing your youth and they're going someplace else. So we have that catch. But that industry will provide a job because they know they have the people to do it. That industry will now pay ad valorem taxes at a much higher rate than we pay, and we will start diminishing. Hopefully we can get down. A healthy community should be closer to like 70%, 30% commercial. We rely on our residents. Again, if you have a business and you own a home in Palm Coast, you are bearing the majority of the brunt of the taxes.
But I looked it up. That's not a rare condition in the state of Florida.
It's not.
Due to retirement communities popping up, Del Webb, the Villages, right down here in Daytona, Margarita, those kind of places were designed. And those are the kind of places that are pushing real hard on this property tax change.
Because those people have their own HOAs.
Absolutely.
Vast majority of them.
Yeah.
So they're paying those fees, and then they're paying fees for taxes as they think they are.
Right.
But the HOA is not going to pay for the sheriff. The HOA doesn't pay for the fire.
No. But and absolutely,
And that's where we kind of had that. Yes, there are, but again, those places popped up where there was nothing. Those places, Margaritaville, was barren land for years
so
and
was
years.
Palm Coast.
And it was, but Margaritaville's density is a lot higher because they went with smaller lots.
Sure.
And there's a place. Some people want to travel more. My in-laws want to travel more to Portugal. That's where they're from. They decided to go back to their original house they purchased, which my family sold them. It's how I met my wife, to take up one side of their duplex. It's less maintenance for them. It's a less cost, as opposed to having a whole house. And we need houses because at the end of the day, so perfect example, I tell people all the time, like, okay, my household, right now there's 5 people in my house. My wife, myself, and 3 kids. Hopefully I'm going to live long enough to see all 3 of them leave my house, go to school, and come back. Well, just by that math alone, we need 3 more houses in Palm Coast.
But unfortunately, they don't come back.
They're not coming back
Most.
because we don't have, and I say the infrastructure, it's not just the roads, but we don't have the whole process. It's a whole, like everything we've talked about today is one big infrastructure.
Right.
And that's what we're missing, and that's what we need to work on in the next 5 to 10 years, because that will be where we are 40 years from now, discussing the next major problem.
Sure. And we agree the concept, the design of what ITT put in place in today's world is sadly lacking in what a city needs.
Yeah.
I don't think they saw Palm Coast as the type of city that we want to grow into, need to grow into, to survive during these economic times.
Yeah.
And it's all real important, and there's no solid answer to it.
No.
It's trying to discuss and be open to what would it take to put transit in. Because with transit, you have people that can move without vehicles.
Yes.
For a little while in my time, I worked for the Boeing company, and one of the things I did, a team would go out and look for subcontractor vendors, locations to expand and put in aerospace companies. Several of them are down in Daytona.
Yeah.
One's up in St. Augustine.
Yes.
And there was this list of things that we looked at for a community. And Palm Coast doesn't have almost any of those.
But with population, maybe Bunnell, being on the railroad, can get that Bright Line connector.
Absolutely.
That can get us to Jacksonville. That can get us to St. Augustine. That can get us to Daytona. That can get us, to various points that Bright Line system will come in. But we still need the population to make it feasible.
If you don't have the workforce available.
And that is an option. We've talked about it several times. The way Palm Coast was laid out and is laid out, are we going to have a bus system, for instance? A loop. I'm going to tell you, it's going to be super hard just because of geography alone. Belterre, 100, Old Kings Road, 95, no stops, obviously. Our main thoroughfares are the prime locations to go around. But we all know from Belterre to say, my first house was on Pritchard, so I always use that as an example. I was 161 Pritchard Drive, my first house I built for myself. It's about a mile just to get to Belterre. Not to mention how many other roads branch off of that. There's no sidewalks because Palm Coast doesn't have sidewalks. So how is that person at 161 Pritchard today is it going to be feasible for them to walk down to catch a bus on Belterre and Pritchard Drive?
No.
And that's where the bus system, doesn't mean we can't get creative. The county has a program. Is it the best? I don't know. I don't use it. Is it the worst?
Well, you wouldn't be able to anyway.
I don't know. I don't use it.
Because
Yes,
it's senior driven.
I'm getting there. I'm almost there.
Well, and there's a survey right
Yes.
now today that the county's running on transportation asking
Yes.
these very questions.
And it's just something that we can, again, it's knowing where we are, knowing where we've been, and saying, okay, what can we do today for tomorrow? And I think that's where a lot of people are like, everybody's focused on what can I do today for today, but that hasn't worked for us. We're short-sighted. We haven't grown. We haven't done the stuff we were supposed to do for tomorrow 6 years ago, 10 years ago. So we're kind of in that pinch point of, such as we had $200 million of repair and replacement just for our stormwater, our wastewater treatment plants and our water facilities. Just didn't happen. So now we have this $330 million bond that's going to cost us $560 something million by the time it's all said and done. We could have started the process to set aside some money every year, handle the things. It's easier to fix than to fully replace. It's cheaper to fix than to fully replace. You also have to recognize it's no longer worth fixing. It's time to replace. It wasn't our priority because the system still was working. It was fine. And I got to, I'm saying, we have to figure out today with the least amount of pain, not no pain, but the least amount of pain, how we're going to prevent more pain 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And I think we spent, we had 2 years no utility director. That's a big position, especially considering our biggest problem we're having right now, and the biggest complaint is our utility fees. So we have someone who, for everything I've seen, he's qualified, he's been doing it for a long time, he has some good ideas. We have to give him some time to actually get it to work. But
And it's important. And it's important. This isn't about bashing or complaining. Palm Coast is a phenomenal place to live.
It is.
Every municipality, every city is struggling to find the answers for what we're going to do next week, next year, and try to do the right things. And you're right. The city council, for years, kicked the can, didn't want to mess with it because there wasn't an issue. They knew there was. But until we had that 1,000-year rain in Milton and it overflowed and we had to report it to the state, we then had to go and put in that 3 million gallon overflow system. But you're correct. And
we delayed. I mean, look at wastewater treatment plant number 2.
Yeah.
That project to expand to 4 million gallons a day has been around for years, except for the plan was there, the concept was there. We just never diverted the money to actually make it happen.
Right.
Now it finally happened.
And unfortunately, there are a plethora of examples of the city failing to maintain various infrastructures to keep the millage rate as low as possible, whether it be the golf course, or whether it be the aquatic center, or whether it be some of the roads that they're struggling and got behind on. But this isn't rare to other cities. It's the rob Peter to pay Paul to try to do the right thing. I was talking with somebody recently who is seriously consider moving because the aquatic center is not being maintained. The Y is years out from being done. And they asked the question, if we're going to spend millions of dollars to help the Y come in, why aren't we fixing our own pool?
Why didn't we
I have no answer for that.
Why didn't we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix our own pool? Not
Exactly.
millions. Just a couple $100,000.
And I was speaking with James recently, who runs Parks and Recs, and I asked him, is the city aware that when the Y gets built, a big fan of the Y, the 40,000+ square foot, all of the gym rooms, all of the exercise areas, which right now are where? Southern Rec Center and our
Community
community
center.
center generating money for the city are going to go away because the Y's going to provide it. And I remember back in the Alphen days when he was really pushing the Y, the Y came back and said, we would love to come, we want to come, but we won't compete with your other two pools. That makes sense. They want to be the source of aquatic pools, gyms, whatever. They stopped funding. The county took over the Belle Terre pool,
Yes.
and they stopped fixing the other pool. Now, they claim they can't afford to spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix the pool and maintain it. But this is what the city citizens are seeing.
Yeah.
And these are the questions that you, as a city council member, is going to be faced with and trying to understand and to be transparent and explain why we're doing this over that. I went and saw a movie the other day. It was, there's really not, but Tuesday nights at the theater, it's $6 nights. And my wife and I were parked down by the stage.
Okay.
And the apartment complexes, full of people. And I asked her, I wonder how they feel about this explosion in growth of the food trucks and all of the concerts and stuff that are going to be 75 feet from their apartment complexes. Has anybody wondered about that?
Well,
How is that going to impact? Here we are going to put a putt-putt range over right there by where all
close
these
to in that
apartments.
same area too.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to be the
Loud.
same. It's going to be loud. It's going to be traffic. It's going to be no parking. It's going to be on those big events, and it's going to be again. It's the infrastructure, but we don't control that either.
No, a lot of
is
people
not-
don't know that either.
That does not belong to the city of Palm Coast. We have parcels of land, the city hall. We got the park, the band. Well, like I almost the band shell, the stage. But we don't run the roads. We don't control
Right.
parking. We don't have any of that because it's not our land. It
Right.
belongs to
Well,
different.
isn't that the same there on the 100 corridor too? That they have
So
put that.
on 100, we actually have Palm Coast has land that they have. This is going back probably 8-10 years ago, I think it was. They realized that Bulldog Drive, I guess it would be the east and north corner of Bulldog, behind the Wawa and all that. They started purchasing those lots years ago, and now they're actually up for development RFPs. It's not just, hey, give us a bid to buy the land. It's not highest and best offer. It is submit a project. Give us an idea of what you want to do, and then based on that, they're going to narrow it down. I guess they're going to figure out, how is that? But that's the economic driver, if you will, because they have that main corridor. They have State Road 100, which they try to fund because they said it's got too much traffic on it. And these are the kind of it's always that, catch 22s and like, you guys are asking for this, but then you'll complain about the same thing. But that's fine. It's something we can work on. And that's fine. But so that they own. But even that part is carved out. It doesn't belong to town center,
Right.
as we all know it.
So, Tony, in our final minutes, the expertise you bring, the skill set that you bring beyond just you care, that you want to see Palm Coast survive, and we've had this conversation about growth going forward. Tell us what you hope to bring.
I bring knowledge. I've been here for the 43 years. That gave me history. History is knowledge. I don't care what you say, how you say it. History is knowledge just by living it. I bring knowledge of me interacting with first the county departments, and then predominantly now for the last 26 years, the city. I've worked with just about all the departments in the city various times and various phases throughout that time, except for like HR. That's like the one department I really haven't.
Let's hope you
Yeah.
stay away from that.
Well, let's hope I do have to get it to go talk to HR, so I can just sign up for my my paycheck as a council member, and that'll be the extent of HR. But I see a lack of, I shouldn't say knowledge, a lack of experience sometimes on council. The splash pad it just came up, so we ended up losing about 1.2 million. That should have been a contract issue. I deal with contracts. I mean, I know construction contracts. I know we could have put and should have put performance bonds that had to be in place before construction started, so that if there was a defect, it would have to be in, let's say, we'd set aside 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, whatever that we'd decide, depending on the project. It shouldn't have cost the city of Palm Coast anything if we would have had that. If someone had said, where's the construction bond? So if we have a defect, we had to spend, I saw it as $600,000 plus in just lawyers' fees.
Oh,
We decide to pay for out of pocket. Like that performance bond tied into the contract, we should have said, you're going to cover and set aside amount and have that part of the bond. Tuesday it came up, a consent agenda, for instance, was several of the agendas. One of them was refurbishing some well pumps. Okay, great. Why are we losing 60% to 80% capacity of flow rates, gallons per minute, in 6 years or less? Is that industry standard? So if that's a contract, like, okay, well, if your pump that you serviced fails to produce, let's say, if you have a 25% drop in the next 2 years, do you have a bond that will help say, or, we have to figure that out. But it's these questions that should be asked, not just kind of whip through a consent agenda. I'm hoping staff is asking, but we don't see it in the public. So that knowledge of those kinds of questions that have to be asked, do I have the answers? No. Like I always say, I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I just have to be smart enough to know who to ask to get the information.
absolutely.
And I think that's important, and that's where I have that knowledge to lead those questions, especially when we're having this, that knowledge to talk to those developments, because they're going to be coming online, because those parcels are there, to say, why do you think you need more than what you're supposed to have? Why do you think you shouldn't take care of this intersection? And then have that conversation with them, because it's traffic and it's stuff that I do work with as in my everyday life.
Sure. And there's a lot more we could talk about. We could sit here for hours. I'm hoping, do you plan on having any kind of town hall or putting yourself out there for the voters in the next few months they can bring questions or something like that to?
It is something I have thought about. With the fundraiser we just had on Friday, we'll be finalizing the numbers. Have to have the money to rent the space, to have the space. And I would encourage everyone to show up. I would encourage everyone to ask your candidate to have one of these. Ask them. Hopefully there's going to be more forums between the chamber. I believe I think the realtors are having one. The Chamber of Commerce is having one. Have these organizations have, but get the one-on-one. So it is something I have thought about. I'm glad you brought it up, because it was one of those, let's see if we can afford, the campaign can afford to have that set up, rent the room at the community center, and just have people come in, have a 2-hour window, just say, come and ask me a question, come and see.
Absolutely. And
So.
I think the transparency, I have the highest respect from experts when they're honest and they go, that's a great question. I don't have an answer for you today, but let's pursue it. Instead of just spending 25 minutes being a politician like some that we have and never answering it. Because as with the affordability of homes and those challenges of Palm Coast, there really isn't an answer, a black and white answer. It's only trying to make the decisions to move forward. And one of the things that in spending time with you and spending time with city council, I believe the council needs to slow down and do their due diligence in preparation and decision making. And on again, they approve an ordinance or approve a vote with half of the information missing. Well, we'll approve this,
Yes.
but there's 20 things we need to have happen first. That's not servicing anyone correctly. That's moving something off of their plate.
I agree. They have to have the courage to say, you know what, there's a lot of new information. Let's just table this.
Exactly.
Give us more information and move forward. Council, I mean, last week's was 340 pages long. I hope they're getting it. I get mine on Friday before. 2 hours later, I was happy I went through the 300. Now, granted, it's not. Sometimes it's it's the red line version of the ordinance, and then the next 15 pages will be the ordinance already cleaned up if they agree to everything. So you can skip those. I'm not gonna lie, but the details, like those well pumps, there was data in there that you had to ask. Well, why are we dropping off significantly water flow gallon per minute? What's happening?
Right.
It took me, I gotta say, probably 2 hours to feel comfortable with everything that I went through. But you have to have it. To get all new information last minute, and even that sometimes is being questioned and changed. And if it gets too complicated, I'm a firm believer of, if you cannot honestly tell the people what you are voting for, then you shouldn't be voting for it. Not
Right.
saying you shouldn't be. Not saying you should vote no, or you should vote. I like the concept. I like what I'm hearing, but we need to table this to get more information.
Yeah, and I think the parliamentary, our city attorney,
Yes.
needs to do a better job of realizing when a discussion up for vote, whether it's an ordinance or the decision to approve additional homes, and realize that the conversation has led to a discovery
Yes.
that wasn't initially understood, or maybe the answer's not there. It should stop. We're not in that big of a hurry. In many cases, some of these ordinances, oh my God, like the chickens, that ordinance was approved
Yes.
before they had even done their due diligence of the study, the pilot study to figure out how to do it. And so for those of us paying attention, we see through that. But I believe the citizens
Yeah.
see through that as well and wonder, how much are we spending? How much staff, how much effort is being done to put forward an ordinance that is indefendable, can't be supported, is unclear, and leaves more questions. And so I hope the next, because we're going to have 3 new city council members,
We are.
3 out of 5. That would be enough to bring a redirection, or at least an opening of a conversation for what the city's going to go. That could be good, or that could be bad. But Tony, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We just scratched the surface.
Yes.
I applaud all the candidates,
Yes.
of which I'm hoping to bring as many of them as possible, so that you can hear and understand and make a good decision of the vote. Because I want you all to vote. I want you all to learn about Tony and learn about the other candidates and the other things that are going on and participate. Because if you don't, I have a real, first thing I say to people, so how'd you vote last time? Well,
Yeah.
I didn't vote. And you're going to sit here and talk to me about your opinions of those things? No. Participate. Earn your voice. Be involved. Come to city council.
Be informed.
It's better than some real TV shows sometimes.
It can.
And Watching on YouTube just doesn't bring them apart.
No.
So Tony, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there,
Yes.
tell everybody what's going on with you.
I'm going to just tell everybody, be informed, get your information, do your homework. It is something that you believe in, then believe in it by doing your research. Don't believe in it because your neighbor told you a story about what they heard. Don't believe it because 4 of your followers on social media are leaning one way or the other. It's on YouTube. You can watch it from the comfort of your home, which is much better than the chairs in city council. If you can tell me you're doing that, your opinion always has a point. It doesn't have to be the same as mine, but your opinion. But if you just tell me, well, because so-and-so said, it has to have a valid point. Like, you've put the time in to understand. That just shows you're interested, and it's not just a social media bite. So please participate, like Mark said. Please be informed. Ask questions. Show up. Write to City Council. All their emails are on the websites, and I think on Palm Coast Connect.
The new app.
The new app. I haven't had a chance to even go through it too much. But start with that. If you don't feel comfortable speaking, start with emails. And then make sure you get your answers. Not just send an email and 3, 4, 5 weeks go by and there's no response. Hey, I wrote you an email. Can you please answer? Stuff like that will do more than the random yelling or misrepresenting some of the ideas that are there, but ask the questions that you want answered, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get fully informed.
Right. Participation matters.
Yes.
We've seen it over and over again. I have seen our city council respond to you en masse. I've seen ideas and changes and things that are affected by participation.
Right.
In today's political world, you have a much higher chance of changing the direction of Palm Coast than any other governmental involvement.
Oh, yeah.
It's down the street. You can watch it on YouTube. In fact, hugely important, tomorrow the city is listening to the Charter Review Committee to present things they want changes. You don't need to be there. It's going to be recorded, but you need to watch it. You need to understand. Don't undervalue the fact that they're changing Palm Coast Constitution.
Yes.
The charter is just another word for the rules and objectives and understanding of how your city's run. They want to change it. Participate. Let people know what's happening. Tony?
Please.
Please. So we ran long. This is really important. Please take the time to learn about the candidates, learn about what they believe in, and understand what's going on with the city. Because the next 5 years in this city is going to be hugely important. And sadly, when you and I are sitting in a city council meeting and we're the only two in there, it's very discouraging.
It is.
But I am seeing more. I do feel that people are getting involved. So,
Yes.
Tony, thanks again
Thank you.
so much. I
appreciate
appreciate it.
As
Guys,
always.
pay attention.
Yes.
Get involved. Yeah, there's crazy things happening at the national level. But there's crazy things happening here in Palm Coast. Things that are going on that affect your pocketbook, your home, your lifestyle. You drive in it every day. You see things that are going on. And you can participate. So do that. So thanks for stopping. Bye. Stay informed. Stay in touch. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot.